So, as some of you might know, my mom and my mom's family, they're all from Colombia. And she was actually born in a city called Cali. This city is sort of like a big city, but it has a lot of economical problems. And because of that, you could say that it's not a very beautiful city. She lived there in a house with her brother and sister, and of course her mother and her father. But she lived in a very unstable household, and so they would lose the house because of money problems very often, and she would have to go and live with her cousins and aunts and things like that. And this was because my grandmother, she had a school bus with her sisters, and that was kind of like her work, and she would pick up kids from school and drop them in their house and things like that. But my grandfather, he never had like a very stable job, so he was always changing jobs and he was getting fired and things like that. So that's why they didn't really have a lot of money and they were very unstable. And this was mainly because my grandfather, he was a man that had a very bad temper. He would get angry very easily, and he would often look down on people. And even though he was a very hard-working man, people wouldn't really want to work with him because he would just fight and argue with people very often. So because of this, because of my grandfather's personality, he also had a lot of problems with my mom. They had a very bad relationship. My mom, she didn't really sort of like her father, and they would fight a lot, and she would just think that he didn't really love her or things like that. And my mom would just like sort of hate the fact that she had to live with him and see him every day. And because of his temper too, he also had a very bad relationship with my grandmother, and they were married at the time, they were already divorced. But they would fight a lot, and so my mom and her brother and sister, they had to see a lot of fights in their house and hear them a lot. So because of this, my mom, she was like a rebel child, and she would just run away from the house and go and live or stay for a few days at her aunt's or cousin's house. Okay, so by now you guys probably have a very harsh judgment about my grandfather. You probably think that he's a bad person and that he was a very bad father. And I would think the same thing too if I didn't know the rest of the story. And I still haven't told you guys who my role model is. And actually, my role model is my grandfather. His name is Elkin Guzman, and that's him right there. But before I explain to you why he is and why I admire him so much, let me just go back to the story and tell you what happened. So when my mom was 17, she went on an exchange to the United States, and I think she was there for about a year. And then she came back to her hometown, like I told you, Cali, just to get her stuff and leave and go to a bigger city so she could go into a better university. And after that, she didn't really finish university in Colombia, but she left and she went to Chile, where luckily for me, she met my father and they started a new life. As I was growing up, I would always spend time with my grandmother because she actually left Colombia too and she would live with us for a very long time. And I still do love my grandmother, and she would just play with me, and she would sing a lot because Colombian people are very loud and stuff. So, and she would always cook a lot, and she taught me like the few things that I know because I don't really know a lot. She taught me. So I've always been very thankful that she was always there for me and that she was present in my life. But I never ever heard anything about my grandfather. My mom would never talk about him, and I just figured that I didn't have a grandfather because I didn't really know. So I just grew up thinking that I had a grandmother, but just no grandfather. And I continued to think this for about, until 7 years ago. And I remember seeing my mother reading a letter, and she was very upset by the letter. And then I saw her crying while she was talking on the phone to a man. I didn't really know who it was, and I didn't ask either. So something like a week later, my mom sat me and my brother down, and for the first time in my life, she talked to us about my grandfather. She told us that he was very sick, that he had cancer, and that he was going to get an operation in just a few weeks. At that moment, I didn't really know what to feel, because until that point, for me, I had no grandfather. And so I was just happy because I had a grandfather, but I was sad too, because maybe I wouldn't have him for too long. For the next couple of weeks, my mom, she started showing us pictures of him and telling us all these things about his life and his new wife and things like that. But I could tell that she was kind of avoiding talking about his personality and some of the negative details in his life. So luckily, his first operation was a success. He recovered very fast, and we were all just so happy. I was very happy because I knew that now I had an opportunity to meet him. And so my mom, I think it was a year later, she told us that we were going on a vacation to meet him. All I wanted to do was to meet my grandfather because I had only known my grandmother, and then my father's parents, they died when he was very young, so I never met them either. So all I wanted to do was to spend time with him, and I wanted him to like me and to kind of just be with him. So before the trip, my mom would just talk to him on the phone, and I talked to him a few times too, and I just thought that he had a very weird accent, because he has lived all of his life in Colombia, and he has a very strong accent. So that's just about everything that I knew of him, that he had a weird accent. And so then when we got there, and since the first time I saw him, I just knew that there was something special about him. He's one of those people that you look at and you just feel happy. To me, he's like the live image of hope and perseverance. He would, during all the time that we went there, he would talk to me about his life projects, and there were so many things that he wanted to do, and he was so eager to hear about the projects that I had for my life. And here I have, that's me and my brother, and here are some pictures of when we met him, and please try to not look at me because I was very angry. And so that's my grandfather, my mom, my brother, and that's my mom's sister. So I would just love spending time with him, and he amazed me by the person that he was. He was so active and just so full of love. He told us how he had changed over the years, after my mom left Colombia. He married another woman, I think there's her. Her name is Nelly, and she kind of showed him God's path, and they went to church together, and he became a pastor. You could just tell by looking at him that he was just so full of goodness, and all he wanted to do was to live his life to the fullest. He looked so kind and happy to me. So after we visited Colombia, we would always keep in touch through Skype and letters and things like that. And he would always phone the house and talk to me and tell me about his projects and things like that. And he also visited us in Chile for